Got a couple here. So this is just one of the training cases. It's a small case. 9-bus case. So I can open the case. With that, I went ahead and opened up the one line. So up to this point, everything looks pretty much like simulator. To actually run the simulation, we have the simulation control menu here. So you can start, pause, abort, or open up a control dialog. So, which gives you the same options, gives you the option to set an end time or specified number of time steps. The server, you start the server, stop the server. So, so this is the server. I'll jump to the client real quick. So this is the client. It looks pretty much the same. And its input, we can connect to the server using the DS protocol. So let me start up the server. The server started, server status running. Now I can go connect to the server using DS protocol. So it will ask me the IP of the server, or the host name for it. This is on my machine, so localhost. We've got port number. And here in the options, I can go to server options. And this will show me what port number the server is running on, and then the various IPs I have assigned to this machine. So if you don't know that, you can find it out from the server right here.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And now I can connect. As I'm connected, and I can go ahead and open a one line so I can see something happening too. Okay. So this is the same one line, so it'll look the same. Now when I go over my simulation control, I can start simulation control, which will start the transient stability run. So now I'm running transient stability. And I can come over, and this is the client now. And it's pulling back data at a certain rate, so it's not refreshing as quickly. But now this data is coming from the client to the server.
On our PowerWorld license, we do not have transient stability. Do we need to add that, or is?
I would say yes if you're going to set up your own cases for the Dynamic Studio.
Okay.
Because there's no other way to do it than unless somebody's giving you cases that are already set up. Okay, so this is running, and you can do things like, so I right-clicked on the line, choose AC line dialog.
Mm-hmm.
I can choose, to open or close a device. So I'll open it. So open that line, I'll see that reflected here in the server, and it's changed all the values in here too. Sure. Whoa. Maybe I don't have any of those. On the bigger case, I think there are some predefined strip charts. So when we go to that, I'll pull that up. But that's just a strip chart of, like, say, frequency. So you can see the ringing as the line opens. So look at the options. Go ahead and pause it so it's not trying to do other things while I'm looking at the options. So there's a bunch of simulation options. These have to do with the time. So right now it's using the current time for start date and time. Simulation duration in seconds, the time step, which this is shown, but I think that would be set up in the transient stability and simulator before the case is loaded in here. Check simulation every n time steps. So I guess this would be checking for commands coming from the various clients. And then we've got, if you're sending out C37118 data or PMU data,
Okay.
this is the deprecation rate or the rate in frames per second that is being sent out. You can save the results to a hard drive every so many seconds. You can speed up or slow down the simulation to try and get something real-time-ish. You can allow commands, force it to confirm all commands. You can save the commands for the scenario out as a transient stability contingency, which will let you open it up in simulator and then kind of play back what happened. Scenario title for the name, okay. So this is how to name it, or you can give it a name. Append the date, time at the contingency name, maximum number of safe contingencies. You can show the case on load and prompt before aborting the simulation. And then this should be the scenario. The transient, since you can have more than one transient stability contingency, this is the transient stability contingency that's being used for this scenario. There's display options, refresh options, time options, strip chart options, how quickly to draw it, how much time to draw it, the scrolling direction, whether or not to show the blackout screen. If you're familiar with simulator and you've had a case that doesn't converge, the power flow doesn't solve, it typically pops up a blackout screen. So this would be telling it whether or not to pop up that. Whether or not to use threads with contouring, speed things up. How to identify buses and events. You can save out a series of JPEGs. These are the options for that.
Okay.
So these are the server options we have. The port you connect to, the IPs of the server, and then we've got the server name. There's an option to automatically start the server on case load. So as soon as you open the case, you start the server. So these are the C37118 options. And let's see. So if you're not familiar with this, this has been a handy tool. It's called the PMU Connection Tester. It's free and I believe open source, so you just have to search for PMU Connection Tester. And so localhost 127.0.0.1, that should be okay. Port 4712, data stream ID 1, and then the protocol. The DS is using the 2011 latest one. I should be able to connect. And I need to start it. Continue. Okay, yeah. So once I started up the simulation, then let me connect. And can you see all this?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a data stream coming out of the Dynamic Studio, the DS. In IEEE C37.118
Mm-hmm.
protocol. It's talking to this GNU connection tester. So if you had a phaser data concentrator or something else that consumed data in that format, this is how you do that. In this options dialog on that menu, there are several options, but they just correspond to various tabs on the dialog. So scenario description, this is just some bookkeeping or descriptive information. You can input about the scenario. So you give it a title, a description, who wrote it, that sort of thing. Last solution summary. So the target ran, how long, the scenario name, the final status, and metric final value. I'm not sure what that means. Time schedules. So you can use this feature to set up a series of actions that can happen throughout the scenario. For example, maybe I can't do that when I'm running. But this should be the sort of thing where you could set up a batch to open or close a line or change an output. If you didn't want to do that ahead of time in the case setup or the scenario setup in the simulator. And then the DS has the ability to communicate over DMP3. I don't have anything here like this GNU connection tester to show you with that. But I know that is in use right now. So let me open up the larger case. Any questions over any of that?
Not yet.
So should have the larger model loaded in. If I look at the case information, these correspond to the model explorer inside of simulator, so I can get a list of buses and lines and transformers, that sort of thing. So this is a 2000 bus. Yeah. 2000 bus synthetic model representing Texas. So I can open the one line for that too. Okay, so here's the one line server. Start the server and start the simulation. And I'll come over to the client. I'll connect to the server. And I'll open up that same one line. And on this one, I'll be sure I've got some logs and charts. So I'm not sure the client. I might kill it and then restart it. So it should work. At least it was working yesterday. All right, well, maybe that's not going to work. Any questions over any of this?
No, not yet. I guess one of our questions is how do we communicate back to Dynamic Studio? We have Dynamic Studio in a virtual environment modeling wind turbines, and so we weren't really certain how to interact with it. We know that it is sending and receiving signals to adjust the turbine outputs as needed, and we were more concerned with how to interact and modify from that point, which I think you're getting to. All of this is very useful. I mean, showing the comms and the C3718 and how to access the DNP3, all that is very useful, and we haven't really dug in to see what communications we were using. We were able to identify, or Michael was able to identify which ports were being used by probing the system a little bit, but all this is helpful so far.
Okay. Yeah, so as far as sending data back into it, can do that with DNP3, or you can do it with the proprietary protocol that we're using between the server and the client. And I don't know what's been done there. You kind of have to see the code to be able to tell. Yeah, there are a couple of commands with the C37118, but it's just like turn on the data, turn off the data. The generator. So the commands for the generator allow you to change a voltage set point, change the real power set point, open and close the device. I don't know what's going on. Why that's 0.01. Start up the simulator. Let's look at the DNP3 setup. So this is simulator here, and this is that same 2000 bus synthetic Texas case. And you can look at the DNP3 configuration. Here in the tools and add-ons folder, there's a subfolder called DNP3. And you can create these outstations, which I assume these would physically, in a typical setup, correspond to substations, or at least a portion of a substation. And then in the outstation, you can set up various points. So these would be the actual data points. um, going in and out over DNP3. So you can just right click to insert, create a new one. Put something random here. So generator 7321 number 1. You choose binary input, analog input, counters input, binary output, or analog output. I forget which way is which. Analog output. This is part of DNP3. There are classes of data. Various classes have various priorities and refresh rates. So you got class 0, analog output, and I can map the field. Megawatt. So set up DNP3 that way. And then you can set it up on the other side to interact with that. So I think I've got everything set up to talk DNP3 here right now. But that could be like an EMS or some program you've written. So that's pretty much what I had prepared. I'm happy to go over any questions or anything more in detail.
I think that's a lot of detail. I think that's more than I can really follow in one sitting, so I don't have too many questions. I guess my only question is, can you open the model in Dynamic Studio again? Just because we were having some issues with that. I think we were trying to do it a slightly different way. I just wanted to see how you
Sure.
about doing it.
So this is that. Hold on. Just do file.